Because guys, gals, everybody, the right shows up for meetings. The right complains and bitches out representatives. They do it all the time. In fact, that's one thing the right definitely has over the left in many ways, is they show up, and they show up in a big way. This was recently seen in San Luis Obispo with the San Luis Obispo County Supervisors meeting. Okay. Now, what happened? The County Board of Supervisors was meeting over a couple things. They were having a update on health, like a health COVID update. And somehow it got into the minds of the some of the more extreme local right wing, and I'm talking MAGA people, right? Let me get a few things straight. I know Republicans who designate between regular Republicans and MAGA people. I know someone very involved in Republican politics out here on the Central Coast, and I once asked them, well, what about those people and this and that? And she goes, those are MAGA people. And we're not exactly MAGA people, okay? So Republicans, they're not a monolith. They're not conservatives. They're not all one thing. But even, the more businessy, country club, classical Republicans, right? They differentiate, okay? So local MAGA people, they were for some reason spreading around information that there was going to be a vaccine passport vote at the San Luis Obispo County Supervisors meeting. There was also going to be a vote decision on the supervisors. The SLO County, San Luis Obispo County Supervisors Board were going to decide how they would handle the next election through the county registrar, the county elector, whether they would have the same kind of availability as COVID, which included early voting, early in-person voting, drop boxes, and all the way mail-in voting for everybody, automatic mail voting. And they decided not to do that. The San Luis Obispo County Supervisors, unlike the county I'm in, Santa Barbara County, is 3-2 conservatives in the majority. But before we get to the voting thing, people were quite upset about this vaccine passport. And, guys, if you've never watched public meetings, it's not super exciting. It's not very sexy. It's not very fun. And you got to go to weird websites like this. This is the San Luis Obispo County Supervisor meeting website, where they actually kind of cool have the, the agenda, the board agenda that you scroll through, and you have this little window to watch it on. So this is the county public health director, I believe, and she's giving an update about COVID, and this is kind of near the end. And listen to what she says here.
Address the topic of vaccine passports. I know that the members of this board and myself have received a lot of comment in advance of this meeting, and I am sure that there is a lot more comment to come that will be aired today. First, I want to say it struck me as somewhat of a misunderstanding with the community about a vote to be taken on vaccine passports. That has never come up in our county. It is not being recommended by me. I'm not even fully clear on what is meant by the term vaccine passports, but I will speak a little bit about the history of vaccine documentation that has been used at different times in different places. So in fact, historically, in the world today, there are still documents that are required upon travel to certain countries where
So Jan Gerald is saying her volume is pretty low. I'm sorry about that, guys. Like I said, it's a government website. What she's basically saying is all these people have showed up for public comment for this meeting because they're angry about a vaccine passport, and there's literally that they think is on the agenda, and there's literally nothing on the agenda about a vaccine passport. This is some either Fox News or Breitbart or Newsmax nonsense. Somebody shared this in a Facebook group and got everybody riled up, and it's absolute nonsense. So these are, we're about to hear some of these comments, but if the volume is low, if it's too low to really hear, then let me know, and we'll kind of skate along a little bit. But let's just hear.
Certain diseases are known to be endemic.
So she talks a bit about actual vaccine requirements and documentation that is needed. There's nothing, no such thing for a COVID vaccine. Let's skip ahead a little bit to public comment. So this, look at the timestamp of this hearing. 13 hours. 13 hours. Like, they had a lot of stuff to handle. It's not like it's all 13 hours on this one subject. As I mentioned, they went into the voting stuff as well. But let's just skip ahead to the public comments over this COVID stuff. And
the body. So for people who are 69 and under who have no pre-existing conditions, their efficacy rate of not getting COVID and fighting off COVID is better than getting the vaccine. So for these reasons and for the discriminatory purposes, I oppose the vaccine passport. Thank you.
So the lady just said, I oppose the vaccine passport. There is no vaccine passport.
My name is Alan Stevo, ALLANSTEVO. Regarding the agenda item COVID update, I would like to be assured that there will be no vaccine passports.
You just were assured there will be no vaccine passports
Implemented locally, and I would like the county board to state clearly that they will not support vaccine passports, that they will not be welcome in this county. I would like the county furthermore to state clearly that no one is to be made to wear a face mask and denied service for not wearing a face mask.
So this guy's also an anti-masker. He's saying, I want it to be made sure from the county level that no one will be denied service for not having a face mask. So as I'm understanding in the comments, the volume is way too low on this government meeting video. So just so you know, there were literally dozens and dozens of, some were that you can pre-call in and leave a voicemail, and that will be your public comment. Others commented in live. We got people in the comments, hey, Evil Yoda's here. Hey, Evil Yoda. Brian Silvier is like, oh no, it's the passports. Darkhead 88, we are surrounded by dumbasses. Well, and so here's some better, this will definitely have some better audio and a better visual for sure. But there's a guy who goes around San Luis Obispo and the Central Coast. He's a YouTuber, much larger following than myself, and he's called the SLO County Observer, and he just does kind of, this is like a well-known kind of thing, that form of just kind of internet journalism where people literally just go film stuff, government, buildings, police officers, and people react. People don't like getting filmed, and so then the Observer just says, I'm an observer. I'm just here to document, and all kinds of interactions happen. And so that's what he does. So he live streamed. There was a protest going on out in front of the county supervisor's building during the meeting. And so keep in mind, it wasn't just the passports. They were also, these people wanted voting to change, they're angry about the voting situation in San Luis Obispo County, and ultimately the conservative majority of San Luis Obispo County voted to return voting after 2020 back to pre-COVID standards, with only 1 day of in-person voting, no early voting, even though that is available across the country, and you only get an absentee ballot if you request it. So let's hear what some of these folks say. Oh, and she says Tommy gone. That's a joke on the county, San Luis Obispo County. I don't know if they call him an elector or the title, but he's like he counts the votes for the county. He's the what a clerk recorder sometimes are called. They different counties have different names, but his name is Tommy Gong, and they're calling him Tommy Gone. But so listen to this. Oh geez, gonna have of course the obligatory ads. Sorry guys, Every time. I set this up much earlier yesterday, but let's just hear.
SIM card in them.
Okay.
So, and it can be set for anything.
What's your grievance?
The Dominion machines have a Verizon SIM card in them.
So he asked her, what's your grievance? And she says, the Dominion voting machines have a Verizon SIM card in them.
Okay.
So, and it can be set for anything.
And it can be set for anything.
You can have a SIM card. You can have a Verizon card.
Yeah.
You can check right into the machine. Nobody knows it. Tommy wouldn't know it.
Who's Tommy?
Tommy Gong is the clerk recorder.
Is the what?
The clerk recorder.
Clerk
Clerk
recorder
recorder?
is what they
One in
call it.
charge of voting.
Is that local?
In there.
He's in there.
So
Okay.
Who are you with?
I'm just observer.
SLO County Observer's asking what who Tommy Gong is. And then he goes across the street and what is in the Dominion machine that Tommy is hiding? Another person apparently called Tommy Gong a communist. Like he's a supporter of the Chinese Communist Party.
Myself, I'm an observer. I'm not gonna.
So what are you going to do with this video?
You know, I'm not too sure yet.
So this is pretty typical of SLO County Observer videos where the people get upset that he's filming and they go, who are you? Identify yourself. And he goes, I'm an observer. What's your name? He goes, I don't want to give you that. And then they just get mad at him about that.
Okay.
Just remember, these are people in public. You don't have a right to not be filmed in public. You're in public. And especially these people are protesting. So this lady's upset that he's not identifying himself.
Just wanted to see what was going on. First of all, can you tell me what's going on?
No.
No?
Not until you identify yourself.
All right, fine. You don't have to.
So he moves on. He finds somebody else.
More detail? What's going on?
No, if you could identify yourself, that would be fantastic. So he won't tell us his name, so there's no transparency with the SLO County Observer.
This lady is upset. There's no transparency from the SLO County Observer. Oh my gosh. So another lady comes up and explains to him a little bit.
Well, anyway. Hi.
Hi.
Is it not obvious what's going on?
No, I see signs, and I just wanted to get.
So they're very surly. Like this is the funny thing about MAGA people is they're very surly with any type of media. And I'm sorry, SLO County Observer. He's not CNN fake news, right? He's just a guy with his camera and he's live streaming. And the lady's like, "Who are you?" And then this other lady, actually calls her a Karen. Goes, "He's not identifying himself." And then this lady's like, "Well, I want to talk to you." And they're torn because they want to get their message out, but then they're upset. They're upset that he's the media. At the same time, so there's cognitive dissonance. And the lady asks him, "Isn't it obvious what we're doing?" He's like, "No, lady, I want to tell me what it is."
Idea what's going on. Voter
Talk
fraud.
about item 25.
Yeah, item 25 on.
So look, we have this guy over here, voter ID, hand count, subject voting. What's in the Dominion voting machine? No vaccine passport. So they really are killing two birds with one stone, the MAGA folks here in San Luis Obispo County. They are, at the same time, scratching both of their conspiratorial itches, right? I mean, you could even have a Dominion voting machine on one side of your sign and a vaccine passport thing on the other side.
There's item 16, which is the health. They have it every single.
I don't know if you guys can hear them too well, but there's one other interesting interaction when he comes over to these folks.
A Trump fest.
He called it a Trump fest. Listen to this.
How's it going, everyone? Just wanted to get all the signs, and anyone want to talk about what the grievance is? Integrity matters.
Wait, who are you with?
SLO County Observer.
Is that liberal?
So they said, "Who are you with?" And he said, "SLO County Observer." And then someone just said, "Is that liberal?"
Is that what?
Neutral. All we want is.
I'm just here with a camera,
So is that liberal? And he's like, "I'm just here with a camera."
trying to get your message out.
right, good.
What?
Can you blur my face?
Okay, great.
You don't have my consent. Can you blur my face, please?
You're already live on the internet.
So some guy's saying, "You don't have my consent, bro. Can you stop?" They're just kind of messing with him.
People are gonna see.
Basically because of Tommy Gong. He has been asked to do it. He has given a lot of excuses why he can't do it. There's a contract reasoning because Dominion said
how's
in the
it going?
contract cannot audit the machine.
Okay.
So the thing is, there's other people that have audited it. If everything was open and above board, what do they have to hide? What are they hiding? So that's the big.
So, this is kind of lines up with a bunch of audits that MAGA people think are going on, but aren't really. Arizona, right now, there's a bunch of controversy over an audit with basically a pro-Trump firm is trying to take over an audit of the vote. And it's looking like a federal judge might step in because it's actually unethical. Those auditors are actually trying to do their audit behind closed doors. So it really is just a funhouse mirrors of all kinds of crazy stuff going on. What's really crazy to me is that it ended up with the SLO County Supervisors did vote to return the elections to pre-COVID procedures. But I don't understand why they don't want early voting. So really quick, on Tuesday, this is KSBY. On Tuesday, SLO County Board of Supes voted 3-2, return to pre-COVID-19 voting procedures. All the MAGA people in the comments are going, traditional voting. This is traditional voting. So that means having around 76 polling stations, and people will need to request a mail-in ballot. The meeting itself was almost 15 hours long and was contentious at times. At times. The other option would have been fewer voting centers, and all registered voters in the county would have received a mail-in ballot. It would have been an extension of the pandemic-era procedures. Supervisor Bruce Gibson said it would have allowed people to vote more easily, and the centers would have been open 4 to 10 days instead of just on Election Day. It would only have cost the county $30,000 to have more voting. Keep in mind, we just went over the quarters of millions of dollars that Santa Maria was spending on its police department. Many members of the community attended the meeting and described their concerns with mail-in ballots. However, the county clerk recorder, Tommy Gong, said, quote, "I have yet to be provided any evidence of any potential voter fraud. That would be something that we would certainly investigate. If any wrongdoings happening, we would report that to the district attorney's office." Interestingly enough, we had a kind of similar situation in Santa Barbara County where the Trump Republicans freaked out and believed there was widespread voter fraud and all this kind of stuff. The 5th District County Board of Supervisors, 5th District Supervisor is Steve Lavagnino, the son of former City of Santa Maria Mayor Larry Lavagnino, who were both registered Republicans. Until very recently, Steve Lavagnino was Republican, and he was quoted in a local paper saying that, look, the vote, I'm paraphrasing, the vote was totally above board. There's nothing wrong. There's no irregularities. We haven't found any voter fraud. There hasn't been any even accusations or anything to suggest that. People need to calm down and stop reading nonsense on the internet. Steve Lavagnino has now since unregistered as a Republican. He's now an independent. He now thinks that it's just got too crazy. The Republican Party freaked him out. So he bailed. Steve Lavagnino bailed, and now he's an independent because of this kind of stuff. Because this stuff, frankly, is embarrassing. And I know Republicans who feel that way. Frankly, I did some reporting on years ago during just before the 2018 midterms, and I went to a Santa Barbara County Republican Central Committee meeting. And I was sitting there, and they had this whole presentation by this one lady about voter fraud and all the voter fraud that's going on. And her belief in voter fraud basically stemmed from her sitting as a poll volunteer and watching all these people who looked the same as other people coming in, saying, oh, they wore hats and they did their hair different and they were coming back. This was all at that liberal college town, Isla Vista, up there near Santa Barbara, where UCSB is. And as she's doing this, the one person in the room who I knew, the person I mentioned earlier, they texted me under the table and just said, my God, I hate this shit. This is so embarrassing. So, a lot of Republicans, they know what nonsense this is. But that doesn't seem to matter. And honestly, this happens all over the country. This was a school board meeting in Florida where they're talking about the kids still have to wear masks. And this is a school board member, an Asian woman who's yelled at and called a communist by Trump supporters. Listen to this.
We can hear you.
First, they tell her to remove her mask. We can't hear you. Can you take your mask off? These are anti-maskers.
I'm truly sad that face masks have morphed from a protective strategy to a political issue. From the beginning of this pandemic, I have always said that I will follow public health guidance about COVID mitigation measures. On Thursday, the highest-ranking public health official in our state has rescinded all public health advisories regarding face masks. While my preference would be to finish out the remaining weeks of this school year with the protocols that have been working in our school all year, I will continue to rely on our public health officials to recommend their expertise in infectious disease control. I still strongly encourage the use of face masks, especially for those who are not fully vaccinated. I strongly encourage those.
They're yelling at her, heckling her, calling her a communist. You get the gist. But, it's not just us on the left and even, and of course, Democrats, basic liberals, milquetoast liberals, not us, not leftists, who find this stuff embarrassing. The Republicans find this embarrassing too, right? I just mentioned that person that I know. But obviously, Liz Cheney found this embarrassing. Liz Cheney, daughter of the infamous war criminal Dick Cheney. I can only imagine Dick Cheney back in our day. We didn't embarrass ourselves like this. We knew how to take care of undesirables. Back then. That's how you do a Dick Cheney impression. Guttural, keep your teeth together. But Liz Cheney, his daughter, GOP eyes voter fraud conspiracy theorist to replace Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney has been ousted of her leadership position in the House. And guys, this Republican infighting is it's so delicious. It's not helping me lose weight because it's so many empty calories. But they are looking like the Republicans are eyeing Representative Elise Stefanik of New York to replace her. Republicans have offered a pretty curious rationale for excommunicating Representative Liz Cheney. I like the use of excommunicating. It makes Trump seem like some kind of pope. From her number 3 leadership role. Amid her continued criticisms of former President Donald Trump, they've argued not that her claims are wrong, because they aren't, but rather that her commentary is unhelpful to the party's efforts to win back the majority, and that they'd rather focus on the future. To perhaps oversimplify things a bit, they'd just rather not talk about it. The argument is particularly strange given how much the man they assure remains their party's leader, Trump, is very much fixated on the past, still spouting election conspiracy theories 6 months after he lost. But it's also strange given that the emerging choice to replace Cheney offered some of the same conspiratorial claims that will only reinforce how much Trump's big lie has infected the party. Let's see. Washington Post Paul Kane on Wednesday profiled Representative Elise Stefanik, who also appears to be the prohibitive favorite to succeed Cheney. Stefanik's story is one of the most significant metamorphoses of the Trump era. At just 36, she was a former GOP aide and entered Congress as an acolyte of former House Speaker Paul Ryan, but has since become a Trumpian firebrand. Guys, that's just what they do. They see which way the wind is blowing. You know what I mean? It's like pop singers who go country. You just gotta lean that way, and the chords are easier anyway, and all that stuff. That includes spouting his baseless and false fraud claims in the lead up to the January 6th Capitol riot. She did so significantly more than many in her party, and certainly more than the leaders whose ranks she could soon join. They would often merely cite states allegedly not following their election laws rather than massive fraud. Stefanik's most extreme claim came in a statement published shortly before the Capitol riot in which she explained she would not object to counting certain states' electors. She cited the same things as other prominent Republicans about state election laws supposedly not being followed, but she also made a particularly remarkable claim about Georgia that, quote, more than 140,000 votes came from underage, deceased, and otherwise unauthorized voters in Fulton County alone. So, this is what's going on. So the right, Republicans, they can't take the L. They never will. Donald Trump is the golden goose. He can do no wrong, right? Doesn't matter. He's like a King Midas, but for shit. Everything he touches just turns to shit, including, this country's COVID response, and what it did to the economy. So many things. But they can never accept that because of all the white nationalism and the things they complain you're canceling them or calling them racist about, which is clearly what they love about them, right? So that's what's going on here. And like I said, it's a big part of Republican politics now. One last thing. I mentioned how the San Luis Obispo County Supervisors were majority conservative, right? And the right and Republicans and the conservative wing. I mean, that's the whole party now. We haven't seen a progressive Republican in a long, long time. But they know that the less people vote, the more success they're going to have. That's, in Florida, the governor there, DeSantis, just signed in the, restrictive voting bill into law. San Luis Obispo County Supervisors decided here in California in San Luis Obispo County, instead of 10 days of voting, just one. Even though it's just why less voting? It just doesn't make sense. It's because of these allegations of voter fraud. But we should know about one of the county supervisors. His name's John Pashong. And John Pashong is actually the owner of Meridian Pacific Strategies. Or he's a partner, right? But it's an owner. Meridian Pacific Strategies is a consulting firm for Republican politicians. It's a conservative Republican consulting firm. So literally a county supervisor is a consultant, is a big money campaign consultant for the entire Central Coast, but all over the place. John Allen Pashong has more than 3 decades of political public affairs and media experience, tackled some of the most challenging jobs in politics, earning a reputation as one of the nation's leading political strategists. So let's see. He honed his skills in politics and media while working in the White House during the Reagan administration, and later as the executive director of the California Republican Party, senior strategist for President George W. Bush and Senator John McCain, and as Western States political director for the Republican National Committee. So that's one of the county supervisors in San Luis Obispo County, who's now just voted to restrict voting in San Luis Obispo County. Just deep connection to, to big time Republican politics, a strategist for George Bush and John McCain. And he was in the Reagan administration White House. So there you go. That's what we have here on the Central Coast. Anytime any of my audience here, if you're not in California, don't ever think that California is just one state, that it's Hollywood and the Bay Area. There's all kinds of other shit in between. And this is some of what we have. So very interesting stuff.